continuing on, I want to correct these checkers that we talked about and make sure that everything is laid flat. So I'm going to kind of picture this as a stuffed animal, and where would the seams be? Okay, the first thing I'm going to think about are the legs are confusing this from laying flat. I think that if I took the legs off, both the front and the back, I think that this would lay out easier. And one thing I'm going to do is turn symmetry on. So if I go up here, go to Object X, now if I select an edge on this side, I can see it's going to select the symmetrical edge on the other side. That's going to help save some time. So I'm going to select this. Now it's kind of hard to see it with the material that they have. So I'm going to go up here to, actually I'm going to right click, assign favorite material, Lambert, and now it's gray. It'll be easier to see. All right. So now if I right click, go to edge, I'm going to shift click around where I'm going to cut this off. Okay, all the way around. And now you can see that it did it on both sides because I had my symmetry turned on. Now I can go up here to cut and then cut. And you can see that it made a darker, thicker line. And now I can right click, go to UV shell, and I can grab that shell and I can move it. Okay, and it took both of those off. Great. Now I want to cut off the back leg. So I'm going to go like this. All right. And I want to make sure that I go all the way around and that I don't miss anything. If I miss something, I wouldn't be able to separate it. So that's why I like to physically separate this after I try. So now I'll go to this, and I should be able to move that. Okay, great. Now I feel like both of these pieces would have a lot easier time kind of laying flat than they would if they were still connected to the legs. And now what I can do is I could turn on the checkers. And if I don't see them, I might have to kind of spread this out a little bit. Maybe make this smaller and then just kind of bring this out. There we go. Okay, good. Now I can see the checkers there. And when I lay this flat, I want you to notice how the checkers kind of update. Okay, so if I select this and if I go to under Modify, I'm going to go all the way down to Unfold. Okay, and what that did is it unfolded the mesh, and if I turn the checkers off, I can see what it did. It kind of relaxed all of this geometry. And if I turn on the checkers, it actually looks really good. Okay, see. Now I'm not concerned about the checkers kind of being connected here, but the fact that the checkers are laid out flat and are square kind of throughout the model, that's what I'm most concerned with. I can see that in the ear, there's still a little disruption. Maybe I'll take care of that later. But for the most part, that's looking pretty good, even on the underbelly. So now you could imagine if I had to paint on the cat, on the cat's face, I would have a little bit easier time to do it because it's laid out flatter. Okay, great. Now, you might say, well, let's lay out the legs. Okay, well, if I select the legs, once again, if I see the checkers, looks really bad there. So if I try to lay this out, Modify, Unfold, ooh, now it actually looks worse. Okay, well, why is that? Well, it's because if you think about it, it would be impossible for this shape to unfold as is because it needs to have some seams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the bottom of the foot. So I'll select that loop, go to cut, UV shell, and now I can move this away from the bottom of the foot. There we go. And now I still can't lay this flat. I need a seam. So if we think about like a soda bottle, and it needs, like if you put a label around a can, there's going to be a seam somewhere. And I don't want that seam to be out here because that's going to be more visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the seam in the inside. And I'm going to go from this cut or this thick line here, all the way down here. So I'm going to shift double click, and you can see that it selected that whole row of edges. And now I'm going to cut. Okay. And what that did is, if you imagine, once again, like I said, that piece of paper wrapped around a soda can, it's going to be able to unwrap from here. So now let me try unfolding this. Modify, unfold. And there, that looks a lot better. And now if I turn on the checkers, I can see that, yes, that looks good. With the exception of the underneath the feet. So I could select the bottom of the feet, and I could go modify, unfold. And there we go. That looks good. If I need to scale them up a little bit, I could just hit scale and go like this. Now, it's kind of weird because they scale like that. So if I needed to, I could turn off my symmetry, and I could just scale one at a time if I wanted to. There we go. That looks good. Yes. I'm going to continue that process with the back. So in the back legs, you've guessed it, I'm going to cut off the bottom of the feet and then make a seam down the inside of the leg. Oh, and I'm going to turn on my symmetry. There we go. And I'm going to go in here, go from, once again, from there to there. I'm putting it there because I feel like that seam's going to be hidden. I'll cut. And then I'll right click, go to UV shell, and then unfold. Excellent. Now I could select these bottom parts, and then I could go modify, unfold. And then I could turn off symmetry and scale those up. Great. Okay. And the goal is to get the checkers, roughly the same size throughout the whole model. And I can start to see that the checkers are a lot better. Yeah, there may be some distortion in some areas. You may not be able to get rid of all the distortion, but at least you know this is working a lot better. And I think that the ears still have a lot of distortion. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those ears off. To do that, I'm just going to go like this, cut. Maybe go like that. And if I didn't turn symmetry on, I could do it like this. I could just do it manually. Okay. Let's see. There we go. And now I could cut that. And just by cutting that, let's see what happens. So I could, once again, go to my move, hit W. And I can see that this one did not separate. It's because I missed one. So I'm going to select this edge, cut. There we go. Okay, awesome. And now if I turn on the checkers, and if I select this one and go to modify, unfold, you can see it even relaxes a little bit more. Now I still have to unfold the ear, but you can see that these shapes is allow it to relax a little bit. Now for the ear, I feel like it would probably do the ear a favor if I cut it like this. Okay, and over here. I'm just kind of picturing what would help it lay flat. Okay, now I'll go cut. And now if I take these shapes, see that now I have a front and a back of the ear. I go to modify, unfold, modify, unfold, and then I'll do unfolds on these as well. And then maybe I take all of these shapes and then just scale them up a little bit. And I could scale them while I'm looking at the checkers to know kind of how big roughly I should scale them. Yeah, that looks good. And I can see that the checkers are now much, much better. In the next video, I'll kind of finish this by organizing these shells.